Good morning, it's Ms Mull here with Monday's maths lesson, and we've got a warm-up today which might give you a little bit of a clue as to what we're going to be doing this week. So our question, is it half? Can you sort these shapes into the correct column, so whether they're showing half that's been coloured in, or whether there's not half being shaded in. So you've got some shapes around the edge. Can you tell me which shape belongs in which column? So pause the video while you work out the answers. Okay, so let's reveal where they need to go. So, this one here, I can see it's a square, and I can see that both parts are equal. It's been split into two parts, which is what happens when we split something in half, and both are equal, and that's a really important thing to remember. Halves mean two equal parts. Oh, let's have a look at this circle. Oh, that's been split into two parts. But are they equal? Imagine that was a cake. Would Miss Mull be happy with this piece here if Mrs Brown had a piece this big? I'm not so sure. So it's definitely not split into halves because they're not equal. Okay, let's have a look at this triangle here. Again, it's been split into two parts, but they're not the same. They're not equal. So it would go here. It's not showing two equal parts. And same with our triangle, unfortunately, it's been split into two parts, but it's not equal. Oh, I've got a pentagon here. It's in two parts, both parts are the same, so that is half because they are equal. Same with my rectangle down here, both parts are the same, they are equal. And then we've got a square here. Now it has been split into four, which is quarters, but two of them have been shaded in. So if I pictured that as a square here, and I split it down the middle and coloured in that part, that would show that half has been coloured. So 2 quarters is the same as 1 half. So that one is. Oh, now let's have a look at this shape here. It's been cut into 4, but we said that that can be okay. Oh, but we've got 3 out of 4 coloured in, so that would be 3 quarters. 3 of the quarters has been coloured in. It's not into 2 equal parts, so it's not half. So well done if you correctly answered those questions. Okay, today we are learning to find a fraction of a shape in different ways. So we are thinking all about fractions this week. So remember, we've got lots of different types of fractions. We've got halves, quarters, thirds, and we're focusing on shape today and in different ways. So that's going to be a key part of our learning today. So let's return to half. So I've got a circle here and I've split it into half. So remember, half means 2 equal parts. I can write it as a word, 1 half. I can also write it as a fraction. And this means that I want 1 part out of the whole number of parts. The whole or the total number of parts. So I've got 2 parts, but I'm only counting 1 of the parts. So I want 1 part out of the 2. And then the same with quarters. So I've got my circle and it's been split into 4 equal parts. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's my 4 parts. But I only want 1 of them, and there's only 1 that's been shaded in here. So we've got 1 out of 4. 1 out of the 4 parts is what I'm looking for 1 quarter. And then a similar thing when we come on to thirds. This time it's been split into 3. So I've got 3 equal parts. And I want 1 of my 3 parts. There's only 1 coloured in out of 3. So halves, quarters and thirds. We're focusing on halves and quarters today. So, how could I colour in half of this shape? So So have a think about it. Some of you might instantly see one way to colour it in half. But what are we going to need to work out? If I say, well, show me another way, what are we going to need to know in order to solve this problem? Well, first of all, I need to know what half means. So remember, half is 2 equal parts. And there's something else we might need to work out. I might need to know how many pieces are on this shape. So maybe it's a block of chocolate. And I want to know how many squares there are, so that if I split it in half, I can see how many each person would get. So I'm going to count them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So there's 16 pieces in this block. I'm going to stick with it being a block of chocolate. So I wonder, who knows what half of 16 is? So 16 is my whole. I'm going to share it out into my 2 parts. I've got half here and half here, so I can just work out what half is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. How many have I got in each side? Oh, I've got 8 here and 8 here. So half of 16 is 8. So I'm going to have to colour in 8 squares to find half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've coloured in half. Some of you have found a different way. So how could you colour it in another way? Maybe I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's another way. Do they have to all be together? What if Miss Moll wanted the chocolate and I coloured in this one, but I don't want that square, so I'm going to have this square next. I don't want this square, I want this square. I don't want this square, I want this square. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've still only got 8 squares, but they're dotted around a little bit more. It's still half that's coloured in, it's just that the pieces aren't touching. So how many different ways can you find to colour in half of this square? So, I can find half of a shape in our build for today, so what I'm looking for. I can find half of a shape in different ways. So I found 1 way, 2 ways. How many ways can you find? Then moving on to quarter of a shape. So how are you going to find quarter of 16? Remember, there is a link between finding half and finding quarter. Remember, if I've got my circle and I split it in half, I can half it again to find quarters. I'm sharing it into 4 equal groups. So how many parts will be in my block this time? And then I can find a quarter of a shape in different ways. So your sheet is going to look like this today, and everybody has got a very similar one today. So if you've got the 1-star sheet today, the easier one, you are focusing on finding half. So it says, how many different ways can you shade half of this shape? And you can only use 1 colour. We don't want multicoloured squares today. And then I've put a note here that you might need to draw some or print some extra copies of these squares, because there are an awful lot of ways to find. You may not find all of them, that is fine. Just how many can you find? So colour them in, and then you've got a challenge, which is moving on to finding quarter. If you are doing the main and challenge sheet today, similar, can you find half? Can you find quarter? And again, you might need to print more sheets of paper so you've got plenty, or draw them out on another piece of paper. You could very easily draw a square and cut it into the 16 pieces ready to do it. So don't worry if you don't want to keep printing them, you can draw them instead. But your challenge is a bit different. Your challenge says, what if you're not allowed to colour 2 squares that are next to each other when you're colouring in half a quarter? How many ways can you find now? So if I go back to my example here, I've got squares that are next to each other. So for the 2-star and 3-star sheets, that wouldn't be allowed in your challenge. Oh, that one would be, that one would be, that one, that one, that one. Oh, but I've got one here that's touching. I need to move that one somewhere else. So I wonder how many ways you can find if they're not allowed to touch. They're not allowed to be next to each other or above each other. They can be diagonal. So, how many ways can you find? I'm really interested to see how many different solutions both classes can find today. So don't forget to email in photos of your work. Mrs. Halligan and I are looking forward to seeing it. So, good luck everybody.